I hunch sometimes, and I need to make sure that I pull the shoulders back, and I don't always do that.
Just went like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Welcome to the Wellness Breakdown. I'm Rose Ferguson.
And I'm Eve Kalinik, and we are super excited that we are now YouTubing our podcast, which means that not only can you listen to it on an audio format, but you can also watch us on video. The podcast basically works with Rose and I setting challenges for each other based on specific wellness trends and fads that we know a lot of you guys are interested in, and that's kind of how the podcast came about, right?
If you have anything that you would like us to look into or investigate further, any fads or crazy stuff you're trying, then let us know, because we love to hear from you.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Hi, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, The Wellness Breakdown. And this week we have our first guest of the series.
Yes, we do, and we're very excited about this. We will also have another guest coming in a couple of weeks. We've been saving them up for you guys.
Yeah, it's actually really nice to have someone else take on a challenge, because results so often depend on the person taking it, and I think this week our guest is going to get a lot out of this challenge.
Yeah, it's an interesting one this week because it's not necessarily a new trend. Well, it's not a new trend, but we do think it's important to business wellness techniques that have been around for a while too. But it is a very popular one right now, even though it has been around, well, for a long, long time.
To be honest, Rose, when I did mention this challenge to you, you were a bit like, really?
Yeah.
Like this. But actually, when we talked about it a bit more, you were like, actually, yeah, really, I think this would be a good one. So this week, our guest is Meera Manek. She's a wellness practitioner. She's an author. She's got 3 books out, and she's also the founder of a beautiful chai brand, Chai by Meera, which I absolutely love. And so we wanted to challenge her to 4 weeks of Pilates.
Yes, you're right. I was a bit like, just because it feels very common or normal. Lots of people talk about Pilates, lots of people do it, but actually. Yeah. I think it is a really good one to look at, because when I say everyone, not everybody does it, and I don't, and I probably should. So have a listen to when we set her the challenge.
Hi Meera, welcome to the Wellness Breakdown podcast. I've obviously known you for some time now. I can't even remember how we met, but it's been, almost 10 years. And look, I know a lot about you and your work, and you're an amazing author, and you host these amazing supper clubs and all of this stuff. But yeah, tell us a little bit, tell our audience a bit more about you and what you do.
Thank you, Eve. I have a couple of books. I've got 2 books out. One is a cookbook called Saffron Soul, and the other is a book on Ayurveda called Prajna, Ayurvedic Rituals for Happiness. And I'm publishing a 3rd this September. I've got a chai brand, so I work with cafes and restaurants supplying chai spice blends to them. And also I'm an integrated health practitioner. So I do various things, mainly writing, wellness, food, and social media, and that's basically it.
And your chai is amazing, Chai by Meera. I love it. I've always got a cup of that on the go. So anyway, I also know you're a bit of a fitness junkie. That's probably a good way to put it, isn't it? Like we're often we're often bumping into each other in the gym. I've now got Rose into weightlifting as well. She did challenge, didn't you, Rose, last season? Well, Meera can seriously lift. I mean, her squats are like on point. So I know she's massively into her health and fitness, and I know you do yoga as well. But I really thought this challenge would be amazing for you, and it is challenging you to do Pilates. It was actually created like in the 1920s, and now it's like gained so much more popularity, with loads of kind of reformer studios popping up, and kind of its main focus is around kind of strengthening the core and pelvic floor. That's why doing Pilates for some extended period, you get a nice set of strong abs. But it is more about strategic working of the muscles rather than kind of exhausting them out. And there's this kind of deep breathing to the practice. So I know that you have done a couple of classes way back when, because we've talked about it in the past, and you've always said to me, I should get back into it. So immediately when we were talking about this, I thought, I know the perfect person to do this. And so what we're going to do, or what I'm setting for you, is essentially attending 4 classes of Reformer Pilates over 2 to 4 weeks. And I'm going to hook you up with one of the studios in London called Frame, which is a studio I really trust and will also make it really convenient for you. So, how do you feel about this?
Love it. I really, really want to get back into Pilates. As you said, I love weightlifting and I've really got into it in the last few years and I definitely need that. But I feel like my core is definitely weaker and I also wanted to get a better posture and I think Pilates will help that.
She's always trying to get me to slow down and do these challenges. It sounds like we might be quite similar, Mira. I'll be really interested to hear from someone who sounds quite similar to me about how you respond to it and if it's something that you find beneficial. Because I think there's lots of people like us out there who like high intensity because you get that sort of dopamine endorphin hit and feel like Pilates and yoga just don't hit that spot. But I think probably I'm missing a trick actually from what I hear about Pilates. So yeah. Good luck.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about it? Because when I called you about it, Mira, you were immediately like, yay, actually, I'm really up for this, which is actually unusual because most of the people we rope into this podcast go, oh, God, really? So you were really enthusiastic. So are you looking forward to it?
I really, really love any sort of new form of exercise. I
Yeah.
love as you said, the dopamine and the sort of adrenaline that you get from, say, spinning. And I've got a Peloton at home, but it's nice to work different muscles. And I think that's what Pilates does. When I've done it before, a long time ago, I really felt it worked different muscles and it made my posture or made me feel more long. Do you know what I mean? It's like kind of increased that length in the body. One thing that I find with my body, especially because I'm quite tall, I hunch sometimes and I need to make sure that I pull the back, pull the shoulders back. And I don't always do
Yours
that.
just
And
went like that.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
When I mention it, when I see someone really straight, I'm like, oh my God, I need to do this. Literally put reminders on my phone to do this all the time. And I think strengthening the core and lengthening your body is a good way of changing the posture.
Yeah. Rose, you did it, didn't you? Like some Pilates back in the 90s. And you
Yeah.
noticed that it totally changed your body, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it was it was a really profound change. It was in the 90s and I was in New York and I went to this lady called Brooke who is like the Pilates woman. And my body really changed. Like I really noticed it. Like I'm always quite fit I really noticed a shift in my shoulders and my core and my bum. And it was amazing actually. It was really noticeable. But we were also just saying that the reformer machines, when I first saw a reformer machine, I mean, I didn't know about 50 Shades of Grey back then, but had I known about 50 Shades of Grey, I would have felt like I was walking into that room.
Yeah, and the pictures of Joseph Pilates, when you look back at the black and white photos, I mean, they do look kind of torturous. So, I mean, a lot of people's perception of Pilates is a lot of our women doing like pelvic floor, tilts in an old church hall. And I just think it's like massively changed now with like all the kind of studios and everything like this. I've done it for now consistently, I'd say for the last year on the Reformer, and I can honestly say I've never had abs, despite the fact that I have weight trained and done other types of exercise like I do have with Reformer Pilates. And it's not like I'm doing it every day, but I do think it is, from a core perspective, it's quite profound.
Amazing.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how you get on. Are you going to plan it around your other workouts, Mira? How do you think you're going to get this into because I know you're super busy at the moment as well, like you're going off on some trips and stuff.
Yeah, no, well, I'm going to basically prioritize doing Pilates because as I said, it's something I've wanted to do for a while. On the days that I'm meant to be doing another workout, I'll just replace it. I think I find when I think about doing something like Pilates, I feel like I won't sort of spend that energy or sweat in the same way as I'll do a cardio class. So I'll need to supplement it, but I won't be supplementing because I feel like I don't have the time right now. But also, I do, from memory, remember that Pilates does actually work you out, and you come out feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe I've just worked out. I'm actually sweating a little bit as well. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that mode. Just finished a Pilates class and just loved it. I love the feeling of working at muscles I don't usually work out, and I just feel great. It feels like everything's sort of a bit more sucked in. Really good feeling, and feel very happy after it. Feel amazing and a little bit sweaty. I didn't expect the sweat, but it feels like a really good toning class. Honestly, feel like I've properly worked out. I go to the gym a lot, but this has worked out muscles I don't usually use. It's quite different. So I finally finished all 4 classes and have booked my next one. I'm sort of addicted to Pilates now. The instructors at Frame were brilliant, explained everything so well, and I feel like my body is starting to respond in a very different way and toning up in a very different way. So really, really happy I did it and can't wait to do more Pilates.
So, Joseph Pilates famously said, in 10 sessions you'll feel better, in 20 you'll look better, in 30 sessions you'll have a completely new body. Now, that is a big claim, particularly when you've only done 4, but how have you got on with your challenge, Mira?
Honestly, I have loved it, and I think you're right about the abs. Even though I don't have abs right now, I do feel like there's a certain sort of zipping in that I haven't felt in a while. And I think that's all the toning that sort of goes on, working on the core, lengthening the body. Posture, I think it's not noticeable, but I do feel like my shoulders are a bit more pulled back. And also it's hard. Like when you do weights, and obviously weights are hard and you can go heavier, it doesn't work out the same muscles. Pilates doesn't work out the same muscles. And it's amazing to feel that sort of slight pain that makes you feel like you've worked out, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I would so challenge some of the guys that are like grunting in the gym and slamming down those bars to do some of the stuff like the scooters. You know, the scooters where you kind of like, you just hold the weight on the one leg and you just move the other one in and out. And the thing is, it builds. It's the pain. Rose is shaking her head for people that are listening.
Hard.
It is
It's
so
so
it
hard.
kind of you can feel your whole leg shaking. And honestly, like I used to do quite significant, I know Mira squats a lot of, you know, you're strong, but it's different. It's kind of that, it's more kind of that stability. Did you find that it was like, you know, obviously you were subbing out some of your other exercise, you know, exercise regime things. Did you find that you missed those, or?
I was actually really happy to just be doing this. It just felt like I was working out my body in a very different way. And I think it's pretty important when you work out a lot to mix it up sometimes. But I did find that there were so many things that I was like, wait, how do I do that? And I'm not putting my right leg here, and I'm losing my balance on this one. And I think that's what keeps you engaged. Because I didn't really understand it all, the time went really quickly because I was just listening to the instructions and trying to figure out what to do. But by the time I did all of that, the 1 hour was gone. Whereas when you really know what you're doing, the 1 hour doesn't go that fast.
That's so true,
Yeah,
because
true.
when I go, because I don't do it very often, you have to really concentrate also because you literally have moving parts, and I mean literal moving parts. The carriage is moving, the armband, you know, the pulleys are moving, and so you really have to concentrate on your balance for a start, but what you're supposed to be doing. So actually it does go really fast, and you know, for me, who's always thinking about other things, it's a really good way to focus on what you're actually doing at that moment. I don't know if they did this at the end of your class, but you put your feet in the loops and you get to stretch your legs around.
Oh,
and
it's
nice.
my favourite part.
I know, you're like, I've done it.
Everybody loves that part, I think,
I've done
don't
it.
they?
Love it.
But I think that's what I thought Reformer Pilates was always like. You know, in my head, it was all about quite stretchy, but actually it's incredibly challenging. So when I go and do it with someone, a lady called Chloe Hodgson, who you may know, down in the countryside. And they're so challenging, the classes.
And also, do you know what it is? It's functional movement.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be in life bench pressing however much, or just squat, you know, randomly static squatting. So balancing on one leg, or, you know, I don't know, the kind of arm rotation stuff they do. It's actually more about, you know, functional movement, which is, as we get older, that's the type of movement and balance and coordination and stuff that we need more. We're very happy that Ancient and Brave is back as our season sponsor. They have an incredible range of collagen supplements, MCT oil, and nootropic blends. As well as nourishing your skin, hair, and nails, collagen has been associated with whole body health benefits, which may include supporting joints and muscles to gut health.
Eve and I are both fans of supplementing collagen, but not all collagen is created equal. Ancient and Brave is beautifully pure, highly absorbable and clinically researched. Also, very easy to take as part of your everyday ritual, as it's also odourless and tasteless. Perfect added to your morning coffee or daily cacao.
Consistency is key when taking supplements, and to get you started, Ancient and Brave is offering 20% off your first 3 orders when you subscribe with the code WELLNESS20.
Ancient and Brave are passionate about sustainability. They are a B Corp and a member of the powerful global initiative 1% for the Planet. So 1% of all sales go towards environmental causes that protect the planet. So buying their products means you're supporting the planet too.
The first 10 minutes of the class, or the first 5 minutes, I felt like I wasn't doing much. I was like, oh, am I going to get anything out of this? And then within 10 or 15 minutes, you're like, I cannot even do that. I can't do all the rest. I have to stop. And you're looking at everyone else thinking, how are they continuing? Like, there is no chance I can do any more than 10 of those. And you realize that you're actually working more muscles than you realize. I'm not sure I got that much better. I think I got more familiar with it, but I'm not sure that my core became that much stronger. Obviously, it will over time.
Yeah, I mean, 4 classes is a bit of an ask for us to, saying that getting you a 6-pack. And also, it's not even about, I mean, I know we're kind of talking a lot about that, but actually it's more about the functionality of it and that strength of the core, which actually then impacts on your posture, which then, like we're talking about how that associates with just general health and well-being. But there's also, as part of it, there is the deep breathing, which for people that haven't done Pilates, it's this like that kind of breath, isn't it? Which is also like at the same time kind of working the core, because that's really integral to the exercise. So it's like if you're not doing that breathing, you're not doing Pilates, because that also then activates more of that parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one that is conducive to moving us out of the stress response, which is the one that Rose struggles to get into. So this is why I keep giving her challenges that make her do that. But were they talking a lot to you about the breath in the class and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, that was also quite interesting because it's quite different to yoga. In yoga, you do a lot of more nasal breathing. And in Pilates, you do more
breath
through the mouth. Yeah. So it's quite different. And I think it helps you move through the exercises. And it also is a good reminder when the instructor is reminding you to constantly breathe, that you do need to breathe through anything that you do, because you can't just hold your breath and do an exercise. And sometimes when we are doing exercises or hard ones, we do tend to hold the breath, and then that's never a good thing. And also flexibility. I think that's the other thing. I mean, I am quite flexible, but I haven't done yoga for a while. I used to do yoga all the time, and it was just nice to get that flexibility back and just really stretch the body in a way that my body really needed, because when you do a lot of weights and other things, you get tightness in the body. And I think Pilates helps to release that.
This move from, lots of people are moving from yoga to Pilates because of, I speak to a lot of clients who have injuries and they use Pilates as a way of creating strength but flexibility, so strong flexibility rather than hyper flexibility, which I think can lead to injuries. I mean, I'm no yoga teacher, but
I think they do different things. I mean, I think yoga sometimes is seen as an exercise class, but it's not. It's a breathing practice. And then the asanas, the poses, are just there to facilitate the breath. But it's a bit like what we've talked about many times before. It's like, people want to get into pretzel positions after doing 2 yoga classes, and it's not. With yoga, you have to totally leave your ego at the door. You don't bring it onto the mat. And I think there's just this association with yoga that you've got to be doing all these Instagram bloody back bends and pincha mayurasana, like handstands and headstands, and of course that's great, and once you build up to it, but it's really more about breathing and not so much about exercising. It's doing different things, whereas Pilates is more about core strength, flexibility, posture and things like that. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because like most of us and probably many of our listeners, we get really evangelical about one type of exercise, because believe me, I got a bit like that with Pilates. I was like, that's it, I don't need to do anything else, I'm just going to do Pilates. I mean, I've always done yoga. Actually, yoga I have done since I was 16, really. I don't know, it's just part of my life now. But other than that, I'd be like, I'm just, was really gym bunny for a bit. Then I got a Peloton and got obsessed with that. I mean, then it became an expensive coat hanger and I actually had to sell it because I was a bit like, I'm not using this Peloton anymore.
I'm a bit like you, Eve. I'm like, I go from one thing to the other.
Me
so
too.
I'm like obsessed with my Peloton, then get into Pilates now, and I feel like I literally just want to do Pilates, and I'm thinking of the next Pilates class, or I get into
that's
weightlifting.
good.
That's it. I just want to do that. But it's all about like just making sure I don't do that, and I do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Bit of rotation. But well, we've talked about it already, so I don't really need to ask this question of will you continue, because we've already talked about when you're back from your lovely trip in Bali to do a class together. So that's really good. And also I think as well for people listening, because let's be honest, Reformer Pilates classes are expensive if you're going to a decent studio. So we set you up with Frame in London, who have a few studios, and they are brilliant and amazing. But you know, any Reformer studio, you're talking probably from 20 quid up for a class. That's like quite, I mean, that I would say that's expensive for a lot of people. So there are some apps that you can use, and there are mat Pilates classes and things like that. I mean, obviously you're not going to be getting on the machines and things like that, but if you get a good instructor, and it is a lot to do with the instructor actually, is that you can use those. And I think, Rose, you mentioned one.
There are two apps actually. One is called the Pilates class with someone called Jackie, and then there's Bryony, who is also an amazing Pilates teacher. One's Australian, one's English, and they're apps, and they have a huge range. Oh, and then there's Chloe Hodgson as well, who I work with. So those are three mat Pilates women that we can put in the show notes for you if you can't get to a Reformer.
The benefits that we're talking about really are the Reformer, so you know, but just putting that in there for people, because it might be cost is about, and Frame do actually have their own online classes as well, so it's important to mention that. I will touch base with you anyway in a few months' time and see if it's not been shunted aside for something else, Mira.
Or become a full-time obsession.
A full-time obsession, exactly. But no, thank you so much for doing the challenge. We really appreciate it and love the fact that you've got so much out of it. Where can people find you? On your Instagram? I know you've got an amazing... Yeah,
at Mira Manic on Instagram, and I mean I have a website as well, miramanic.com, and at Chai by Mira, which is my chai brand. So I'm on both
which is so nice, and especially now coming into the summer, like an iced chai by Mira is like one of my loveliest things to enjoy. Okay, well, that was such an interesting episode, wasn't it, Rose? And I think, you know, when it comes to Pilates, actually what we didn't touch upon there is that it's so broad in terms of there's very few barriers, so you can join it at any level and any age, and so it's not, you don't need to be like of a certain fitness level. And I think that's really important as well, because it is about that functional movement as we get older, and not necessarily doing a specific type of exercise, but more ones that kind of help our body and our posture and things like that, balance, coordination. So it was really good.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, the thing that we mentioned about the Reformer versus mat, I think mat Pilates, if that is your entry level, is also a really good place to start. So don't feel that if you can't afford a Reformer, or if there isn't a Reformer class near you, that there's no point. There definitely is. There definitely is. And actually, there's so many benefits to doing a mat Pilates class. And then it's much more accessible for those of you who can't find a Reformer. Let's go through a few emails before we go. I've got one here from Donna. And it says, "Hi Rose and Eve, I've just found your podcast on YouTube and was so fascinated about the ultra-processed foods." Oh yeah, people really got into this one. That creep into your diet. It's so scary. Just going back over the last few seasons to keep up the good work. Thank you, Donna. That's very nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That ultra-processed foods one. I mean, there was a lot of people commenting on that.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not doing that now. Okay, I have one here from Kevin. I'm listening to the yoga podcast with your husband, Jake Chapman, Rose. I still laugh at that. And he's saying, "I'm smiling from ear to ear, thinking about him sitting for any length of time in silence and stillness. It's very funny to hear you guys band together too. Love your podcast. A friend recommended it and I'm hooked." Oh, that's great.
Great.
That was a funny episode, though.
That was a funny episode, yeah. I'd like him to sit still and be quiet much more than he is. There's another one from Bonnie. "Hi Rose and Eve, since your podcast about collagen, I've been taking it religiously. I'm in my mid-30s and hadn't even thought about it, but my joints definitely don't ache like they used to. I'm hoping now it will shift to my face and smooth out the lines. Here's hoping." Aren't we all?
Yeah, we often get that response. I mean, hopefully she's taking the Ancient Brave collagen, because that's the one that we both really like and enjoy. But yeah, it's not necessarily going to happen like that, Bonnie. No. But good to hear that your joints are feeling a lot better anyways. Well, thanks everybody for your messages as always and emails. And remember, you can always email us on info@thewellnessbreakdown.co.uk, or you can message us on our Instagram pages. So that's it for this week. I loved having Mira on, and she's such a special person and she's a really good friend. And I think she really got so much out of that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, she was great, actually. It really did inspire me. I'm genuinely going to go and do Reformer Pilates now. Next week, Miss Eve, it is you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's my last challenge, Rose, and I've been doing this one for a while, and it's a really interesting one. So looking forward to it.
Wow. Well, that's a first. Looking forward to one of my challenges. Thank you all for joining us on the Wellness Breakdown. Please click and subscribe and leave a nice comment below.
Oh, and remember, this podcast is also available in audio form, and we have 3 previous seasons you can listen to on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your usual podcast from. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone.